Hello Internet, my name is Andrew Eder and welcome to another episode of Film Editorials. It's been a long time since I've done one of these, and I was looking back on all the movies that I've seen this year and all the movies that I've reviewed, and the first list is a lot longer than the second. So today's video is actually just going to be a roundup of movies that I've seen that I haven't reviewed yet. And it was going to be like a summer wrap-up kind of thing, but A, I realized that a lot of the movies I've seen this year didn't come out during the summer, so that's not really appropriate. And B, it's now October, so a summer wrap-up is kind of late, even by my standards. So we're just gonna have this be like a things I've missed so far in 2016 video. And on that note, let's get to those reviews. Before we get started, I just want to mention that these reviews are going to be kind of quick because otherwise this movie's going to be like an hour long because I've got a lot of movies to get through. First up is a little film called Hardcore Henry, which came out back in April, and this movie was terrible. The whole appeal of this movie was that it's kind of a comic book and kind of a video game, and all done from the first-person perspective. So you never actually see the main character's face, because their perspective is your perspective throughout the entire film. That little bit of novelty is the only thing that's giving this movie 1 star out of 5. Everything else about it is terrible. The story is all over the place, equal parts really confusing and really predictable, and there's so much violence and gore in this movie that it actually made me uncomfortable, and I feel like I'm pretty adjusted to these kinds of things, and it was just gross. It's just terrible movie. Please do not go see Hardcore Henry. Or don't rent it, don't do anything with it. If it fades into obscurity for the rest of time, that's fine by me. Movie number 2 is The Jungle Book. Now, if Disney is watching this, they're probably going to want me to say that it's the live-action remake of The Jungle Book, except calling this movie a live-action film would be like calling the Lego Movie a live-action film. Just because there's some live-action actors in it doesn't mean that the movie is live-action. 99.9% of this Jungle Book movie is computer-generated, and it's very obvious that that's the case, and while it looks very good, it's still definitely not a live-action film in the conventional sense of the word. That being said, I did enjoy The Jungle Book more than I thought I was going to. It's got humor, it has heart, there are good lessons to be learned there, it's very, very pretty, and it definitely has a lot more of a plot than the animated film upon which it is based. The movie's not perfect though, so I'm gonna have to give it 3.5 stars out of 5, because there are some scenes that just really don't fit in with the rest of it, like the thing going on with Scarlett Johansson's Snake character. And then when they try to incorporate the classic songs from the original film, they feel shoehorned in and really out of place, and that really kicks you out of the movie-going experience. Movie number 3 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, which I think is subtitled Out of the Shadows. And this is another movie that was, just terrible. I was lucky in as far as I didn't go see the first film, so I don't know how this compares to that, but this movie was not good. If you were expecting it to be great, I don't know what to say to you, because why were you thinking that? It's dumb, it's ridiculous, it has giant mutant turtles that look like monsters, not anything resembling turtles or teenagers. Mutants, yes, ninjas even less so. So, yeah, this movie was just really bad. I recognize that my score of 2 stars out of 5 isn't very thorough, but it's been a couple months since I've seen this movie, and I don't know if it's just forgettable or if I'm blocking this movie from my memory, but I don't remember a lot of my impressions from this movie. I just remember thinking it was really dumb, like kind of enjoyable in that, like, I could sit through it all, and I wasn't trying to gnaw my arm off to escape, but it was not good. It was not fun to watch. It was not a fun experience. I don't want to see it again, ever. Movie number 4 is going to be Finding Dory, which continues the trend of 2016 of movies being slightly too similar to the original film in their franchise. Fundamentally, this movie still works and is still really good Pixar quality stuff. The animation is incredible, the humor is definitely there, the emotions are absolutely there, but the movie is just a little bit too much like Finding Nemo. There are entire scenes that are lifted from Finding Nemo and put into this movie. They come at the same point in the plot, they serve the same emotional function, they even look alike in terms of color and setting, and I feel like I've seen these scenes before. I know that they're different because it's, you know, slightly different. Oh, instead of this big green pipe, there are several green piers sticking out of the water. Like, okay, I guess, yes, that's technically different, but it still feels the same, and it serves the same function in the plot. I don't need to watch the same movie over again. There are two things that make Finding Dory significantly different from Finding Nemo, though, and the first of those is that it's far sillier. Case in point is the scene at the climax of the film where there's an octopus and a truck. If you haven't seen the movie somehow, I'm not going to say what that is, because that would be a spoiler, and we don't do spoilers here. But that scene is pretty ridiculous and silly, and I didn't think it was necessary, and I thought it was kind of odd to be in there, and it took me out of the experience, which is otherwise fairly relatable, but having the scene with the truck and the octopus just doesn't work for me. The other addition to Finding Dory is the fact that it's a lot cuter. Like, Finding Nemo was cute to begin with, but you also had, the shark and the anglerfish to make things scary. In Finding Dory, you have cuddling otters, who are adorable, and Baby Dory, who is also adorable. I'm not going to consider that a plus or a minus in my 4 stars out of 5 review. Movie number 5 is going to be Ghostbusters, and this movie was really controversial even before it came out, just because of things being said on the internet of questionable intelligence and legitimacy. But at the end of the day, the hype surrounding the movie doesn't actually have anything to do with what the movie's actually about, and the movie itself was okay. I'm gonna give it 3 stars out of 5. There were parts of it that were very funny, there were parts of it that I didn't think were that funny. I also think this movie is really hampered by the fact that it didn't seem to be sure if it was trying to tell a brand new story or if it was trying to tell an old story again. If this film had been a straight sequel to the original 2 movies, I feel like it would have worked maybe a little bit better. But because this movie seemed to be referencing the other movies while also trying to distance itself from those other movies, there was this weird tension in the movie that I don't think helped anything. There was also the climactic fight at the end of the movie, which was actually pretty cool, but it felt very out of place because it felt very much like a video game. I thought that all 4 of the main characters were good and worked. I especially liked the part where we got to learn about Kristen Wiig's character's backstory. I felt like that was a really nice addition, because you didn't have that really in the first 2 films, and having that for this one I think really worked. It just would have been nice if they had extended that treatment to the other 3 characters, because we don't really know anything about them. Movie number 6 is The Secret Life of Pets, and I can sum up this movie really quite quickly. I'm gonna have to give this movie 3.5 stars out of 5 because it is basically Toy Story with dogs. And then all the funniest jokes are in the trailers that came out before the movie itself came out. So it was funny, and there's some nice heartfelt moments in there, but the basic premise of the story is one that we've seen before, and all the jokes you've seen if you've watched the trailers. Other people have done it earlier and better. Movie number 7 is Jason Bourne, and this is another movie that's slightly too similar to other films in its own franchise. I did appreciate that Jason Bourne was a little bit different than the other 3 Matt Damon Jason Bourne movies. The main difference here being that the plot is simpler. Jason Bourne and the villain in the film are directly clashing with each other, and that made it a lot simpler, and I actually really appreciated that. There are probably a lot of people out there who didn't like that simplicity, thinking that it was, dumbed down or something, but it was nice just to get an action movie with Jason Bourne. Other than that, this movie was very much like all the other Jason Bourne movies, with car chases and really rapid fight scenes and Matt Damon barely talking. My other big complaint about Jason Bourne was that even though I've just talked about how simple overall the plot is, there comes a point at the end of the film where there's one character whose motivations we just don't understand, and she totally changes her tune. You think they're being subtle about what she's going through, and then all of a sudden she's just a totally different character, and I don't get what's going on there, but I guess we're gonna have to wait for the sequel on that one. Movie number 8 is going to be Sully, and this film is really compelling, but that's just because of the subject matter. But the filmmaking isn't as powerful as I think the event deserves. Yes, there are times in the film when they discuss the power of the event and the success that Sully had. I think one of the big problems with this film is that they decided to tell the story in a non-linear way. The events of the film start after the events of him landing on the Hudson, and the film focuses on the investigation into the events of the water landing, but that's interspersed with flashbacks and dream sequences, and that's all well and good. In fact, that's probably the way most people would tell that story because doing it linearly kind of just takes the power out of the climax of the movie. But I don't think they did it right because there are flashbacks that repeat themselves. Like, you watch the entire water landing twice, and that's weird, and you get all choked up the first time it happens, and then the second time you're supposed to get more choked up, but they're really just repeating themselves. And I don't know why they did it that way. So I was expecting to like this movie a lot more than 3.5 stars out of 5 would suggest. But Tom Hanks is great, obviously. I mean, he even looks like the guy now. I think we're on movie number 9 now, and that's going to be Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. This movie's based off of a series of books, and it's directed by Tim Burton, and it really feels like it's directed by Tim Burton. There are people with really big eyes, there are children who like to reanimate corpses, it has creepy children dressed up in masks, you know, all the usual hallmarks of a Tim Burton film. I have not read the books. My girlfriend has, and she says that they're very good and suggests that people go read them. But my expectations were formed by the trailers, and to me, this movie looked like it was going to be Harry Potter plus X-Men, and really the equation is more like Harry Potter divided by X-Men, which is a very strange equation and a very weird setup. And this movie was ultimately disappointing, like 2.5 stars out of 5 disappointing. That disappointment comes from two main sources, the first being the way the timing of the movie works. The first half is generally very slow, and the only connecting threads from one scene to the next are just because they follow each other chronologically. Like there's this creepy scene that happens when a bunch of sheep die, and nothing seems to come of that. We learn like half a movie later that that's actually like very important, but no one makes a big deal about it at the time. And so the event doesn't drive anything further in the story. It's just like, oh yeah, remember that thing that happened? Oh, that was important. These things should be more connected for the movie to really work well. The other thing that holds this movie back for me is the nature of time travel. There is time travel in this movie. Time travel can get mind-bending at the best of times, and this is not the best of time because there are a lot of questions I have at the end of this movie about where this child is in time, how he travels through time the way he does, in this very brief, like, minute-long explanation about how he travels through time. It doesn't make any sense. That being said, this movie is very well polished and looks really cool and actually has a surprisingly good cast, especially surprising considering that the rest of the movie isn't really up to snuff. So this list of movies has been kind of going chronologically, and I just realized that I missed one. So movie number 10 is Independence Day Resurgence. The original Independence Day movie was one of my favorite movies growing up, and so I was excited for this movie, also nervous because it's been 20 years, so I knew it was probably not going to be that great, and it wasn't that great. In fact, I kind of don't like the first half of Independence Day Resurgence because it's all very grim and very serious, and it moves too quickly. Like, they discovered that the aliens are coming back, and then the aliens are back, and they've crashed this big thing into Earth, and like thousands, hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of people have died, and no one seems to be that upset about it. But then my enjoyment of the movie picks up again in the second half of the film when it becomes more fun and more like the original film. And this movie was just like stupid fun. So I'm gonna give this movie 3.5 stars out of 5. Like, I know it's bad, but I still enjoyed watching it. The metaphor could be made that this film was popcorn. It offers no nutritional value. If you eat a bunch of it, your lips will go dry, but it's still just fun to do, and you still enjoy the experience of it, and it's just good to have once in a while. But, I mean, it doesn't add anything. I just had fun with it. Okay, I think that's just about everything. There's probably something that I've missed because I like to go to the movies and I haven't done that many reviews this year, so I'm probably missing something. Let me know if I've missed any huge things down below in the comments. What did you think of any and all of these movies? Feel free to comment about that as well. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, favorite, share, subscribe, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. And of course, please don't forget to say hi to my friends over at The Good News Review, tgnreview.com. They also have an app in the App Store. They have an online newspaper of sorts which talks about all the good things going on in the world today, not just the doom and gloom of the 24-hour news cycle. But it is still news over there. You're not going to see just a bunch of pictures of cats. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!